Welcome to the Team Performance Workshop Overview. I'm Antonella, and in this session, I'll be walking you through how this type of workshop would unfold for your group. Let's start by going through a simple exercise. You can see the canvas is hiding part of the picture. Can you describe the red and blue lines? Well, here you go. Did you describe those lines as parallel? Don't worry, many do. And that's the issue because you're assuming. And when you assume, you're actually using your gut feel instead of facts. And this is what happens at work all the time. You start believing things about your employees or peers without having all the information at hand. Sometimes, seeing things that really aren't there will create the confusion, conflict, miscommunication, and more. What if you were able to have factual data-based information on your employees or peers? Having data would definitely provide that information that would either counter or refine your perception of them. Now, by conducting an assessment that deals with looking at situational interactions, you'll learn valuable information. The assessment takes out the subjectivity and helps you form a more accurate understanding of your employees or fellow peers. Now imagine if your employees or colleagues completed the assessment just as you have. They will have the same tendencies for action. And what if you were to share the results and strike a conversation? You got it. Transparency by sharing will lead to trust, which will lead to collaboration. And this is how your team gets to improve on performance. The goal of the Team Performance Workshop is to look at all the strengths each member brings to the table and optimize the team's dynamics so that they become more efficient as a united front. So what does the process look like? Well, you'll start by receiving an electronic email giving you a link to the assessment. The assessment you complete is a web-based tool called PXT Select. The results are then calculated and placed on a bell curve. Now, it's important to note that there is no right or wrong answer. This is not better or worse, or good or bad either. It really just tells you where you land on the bell curve based on your assessment. Now, the assessment is broken down into 5 thinking styles, 9 behavioral traits, and 6 grouped interests. When you land within the 68% curve for any of these measured skills, you're considered to have a common trait with most of the people at work. Now, if you land on either ends where the 16% is on the curve, you're considered to be unique and less people are similar to the way you think or behave. For example, let's say we're looking at the thinking style verbal skill. And one of your tasks is to communicate across the company. Now, if you've scored within the 68%, you'll be able to effectively reach 90% of the population. If you have scored within the 16%, you're only going to be able to communicate effectively to 40% of the company. So you'll be receiving this individual graph along with definitions for each of the styles and traits. Each team member then goes through a one-on-one review with a certified coach to understand their assessment. It is important that you understand your results before you start looking at your employees or colleagues. After all the members have completed their one-on-ones with the coach, then you're ready to get together for the workshop. A facilitator guides the team in open discussions concerning the strengths they hold for each of the thinking styles and behavioral traits. It's important to maintain a safe environment for this communication. The team looks at past situations and discuss how their perceptions have not always been correct. It's all about the team discovery on how you're going to be using your talents to work together effectively. Now, here's an example of a behavioral trait shared during a workshop. Before we go into the trait, let's do some logistics. The team members are all shown by initials. The manager is shown in red. And you can see that there's not only the score within the bell curve that was their result, but a bar chart. And this occurs because when we're looking at interactive compatibility between people, an individual can reach out and communicate effectively 2 sections out on either side of the curve. For example, you can see that the manager has scored one of the extremes, and so he is able to interact successfully or to have those employees who fall and overlap with him understand where he's coming from. Now, the visual scaling is important. When you overlap, it shows where you have similarities of behavior. When you don't overlap, that's where the team starts having discussions. Remember, it's a safe group environment, so the team really brainstorms how to turn the result to their benefit. So let's go back to the example on sociability. The leader prefers being more reserved, carrying out some tasks alone rather than participating with his team. Now, this creates a need-to-know environment, and some of the members have shown that they accept this because they understand where their manager is coming from, while others appear more distant. During the discussions, those individuals that were outgoing were the last to get on board, simply because they didn't have all the information. Now that they viewed the graph along with all their teammates, they had a laugh about it and finally understood where the manager was coming from. Further discussions actually show that when this group interacts cross-functionally, the two individuals that are outgoing are the ones that are contacted more often by the other functions. They're both told at different instances that the group is not as approachable as they are. So the team finds out that not all of them really have solid relationships with other functions. After more discussions ensue, the team comes up with 2 next steps. The manager decides that going forward, he's going to do a better job of communicating with more transparency. And when it comes to the other functions, they'll continue having those 2 outgoing people communicate with them, but will actually be teamed up with one of the reserved in responding so that the other functions start seeing that all team members can be approachable. And slowly, they hope that the other team members will establish a good working relationship as well. Now, what I've described is an example of what would occur during the one-day workshop. The facilitator shows the chart, they'll go through the definitions, and then they'll ask pointed questions to get the discussion going. The good news is that the behavior and the traits are skills that you can work on. So together with your team, you can work towards improving the team and your skills at the same time. You always want to grow in your career and improve your interaction with others so that you excel at the workplace. So what's next? Well, at the end of the workshop, the team consolidates all the actions they had for the day. The facilitator then walks them through a team leadership board where they can summarize their learnings, produce a team's vision and mission, list the top values that they want to portray, as well as the actions they're going to work on first. Together, they'll decide how they're going to measure their performance. Now, due to COVID, we've actually pivoted and we're starting to do these workshops virtually through Zoom, where we've divided the day into 3 2-hour sessions. A special rate has been applied for a limited time for this virtual setting. If you're interested in conducting a team performance workshop, please feel free to contact us at our website or you can reach us by phone. Thank you for taking the time to go through our presentation today.